Pretty obvious what we're going to be discussing tonight. I don't think anybody's surprised on this one. The remnants of Harvey are now bearing down on our area. This is going to bring obviously heavy rainfall to our area, and we need to discuss rainfall potential, how much we're going to see. So that's going to be the topic of tonight's Facebook Live video. Like I said, not really a surprise we're discussing this one. I hope everybody is having a good night. I will tell you guys, whenever I do my Facebook Live videos, basically we do this as a partnership. And the reason I say that is my job by nature is to be a communicator. And what I'm supposed to do is reach as many people as possible. That's what I do for a living. And in a sense, you guys partner with me every time we do a Facebook Live video. My goal is to reach people. You can help me by sharing the video. And that's why we set these share goals on a night in, night out basis. So our goal tonight is to get to 1,000 shares. If we make it to 1,000 shares tonight, we make it for the 103rd night in a row, which dates back to January. It's crazy we're talking about that now, but you guys crush it on a night in, night out basis. To help me get to 1,000 shares tonight, if everybody can just share the video 3 times, helps me get the video out there, lets your friends know we're doing this. I know obviously this is going to be a high interest topic for our area. Harvey's name alone just demands respect at this point after everything that it has done. I never thought I would say this, being somebody that actually chased Hurricane Katrina 12 years ago. Truth be told is I believe that when it's all said and done that Harvey is going to sit alone atop the most destructive natural events ever to occur, natural disasters in U.S. history. But Harvey's coming here. And there's a couple things I want to note as I'm sharing the video quickly over to WDRB Weather, but it's really important to note, guys. Somebody asked me in Salem, does this resemble what we saw when we had that catastrophic flooding in Salem? No, it doesn't. If you recall, that rain all fell within about a 2-hour period. So this is going to be drawn out over 36 hours, so it's different. And that's important to note that it is not the same as what we saw there. Next, a lot of people are saying, Mark, you know what, we don't need what occurred in Houston. That would be devastating for our area, and you're right. Remember, also what occurred in Houston occurred over several days. That was a 3-day period, and on top of that, there was 26 inches of rain in about 24 hours. So it really is important when you kind of discuss something like this to understand as we begin that most importantly, there is nothing within the data that shows a repeat of what's occurring in Houston. That's important to note. And secondly, there's nothing that shows, for instance, 6 inches of rain in 2 hours like what we saw. Those are things that we're not talking about in this scenario. But what we are talking about is a period of heavy rain that begins tonight somewhere between 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. And we're talking about a sustained period of that heavy rain lasting through potentially about 10 p.m. tomorrow. So it's important when we discuss this thing to have an understanding. The rain's going to continue tomorrow night and on into Saturday, but I want you guys to understand we're not talking about all of this rain coming at one individual time. That said, do I think there's going to be flooding? Absolutely. I have zero question in my mind that we're going to see flooding in our area. Do I think the Ohio River is going to flood? So the Ohio is low. We have been generally dry this summer, and the Ohio can handle a whole lot of water. Do I think there's going to be rises? Yeah, absolutely. But most of the data suggests that the Ohio will not go into flood stage. That said, green, we could see rises. Rough, we could see rises on. And so southern part of our area, we would have to watch those rivers the most closely. All that said, creeks obviously can swell when you get excessive rain, in particular if it's a short period of time. So what we're going to discuss in tonight's Facebook Live video is we're going to go through the flash flood watch. We're going to look at the data. How much does the data show for our area? And then we're going to circle around to what the National Weather Service and the WPC have for our area on rainfall. I will save you guys about 15 minutes at the end of the video. So that should be around 8:10 to 8:25. I know a lot of you are going to have questions. I can answer all your questions, hopefully, give you guys my thoughts. And that's the way we'll do it now. Remember, our goal tonight is to get to 1,000 shares. Remember, we partner at this so we can get the video out to the most number of people possible. If everybody shares the video 3 times, which is pretty simple, we will easily go up over 2,000 shares. So Give me 3 shares, everybody, and let's jump into our discussion. As we stand right now, flash flood watch is in effect. Actually, a very, very well-placed flash flood watch from the National Weather Service. The flash flood watch is in effect, goes north of the River One County, including Perry in southern Indiana, Crawford, Harrison, Floyd, Clark, and Jefferson County in Indiana. Now, if you can hear me in Kentucky and you're within my viewing area, which goes southward to Grayson, Hart, Greene, and Adair County, you are under a flash flood watch, which begins tonight at midnight and goes through tomorrow. Again, well placed, agree with the concept here, and that is flash flooding is possible and actually likely in many of the counties, in particular south of the river. But we've already seen some rain begin. Airports only received 500ths, but notice Fern Creek a 10th. Shively's already at a 1/3 of an inch, and Simpsonville has received some rain from a decaying thunderstorm right now. And I'll show you what we actually have going on within our area on the current. And you'll notice that our slug, our big area of rain, is not that far to the south. So this has started now in Bowling Green. In Louisville, there are some areas where we've got thunderstorms that have generated. So this is occurring right now. Still some rain left over near English, Indiana. That crosses the border into Floyd County. We've got some crossing over the Ohio River into Kentucky. Not much, but PRP, still some showers lingering. Heavy rain right now, Billtown Road along the Gene Snyder, Taylorsville Road as we go outside of the Gene Snyder. Here's a shower right now that's forming along Hurstbourne and the Shelbyville Road area. And then Shelbyville Road as we go out past around Valhalla through around Simpsonville. We've got rain, thunderstorms occurring right now. So I'll take you out a little bit wider, and you can see the big system that is Harvey is sitting over Alabama now, over Mississippi now. I will tell you that this thing produced a very large and looked like strong tornado in parts of Alabama today. That's the warm sector of the storm. You can see that our part of the storm is going to be the northeastern and northern and northwestern side of the storm. So the northern tier of that storm is what's going to be moving across our area. And what you can see is there's not a whole lot of lightning in that area. That said, there's a large mass of rain. And as this transitions from a tropical to a regular low pressure, what happens normally is the northwestern point in that storm becomes the big heavy rain producer. And you can see if you kind of look on a trajectory, that low will make a move towards Hopkinsville and then come up the Kentucky Parkways, Bluegrass, Western Kentucky Parkway across our area. In that track, what that means is the southern part of our area, I can't rule out a isolated tornado spin up either late tonight or early tomorrow. That would include areas like Campbellsville, Greensburg, Munfordville, through around the Columbia area. It is impossible to take that off of the table entirely. But we need to talk about rainfall totals. So let's start by looking at the NAM computer model. This is the North American Mesoscale computer model. And you can see the NAM's actually doing a pretty good job of this, I'll tell you. It has had its share of fluctuations. It has not always been accurate on this, but I like what it's showing at this point. And you can see what happens here is you get that heavy rain axis extending from around the Hopkinsville area, hits around the Kentucky Parkways, and then starts to pivot east. Secondly, you'll notice that the rainfall in the far northeastern part of Kentucky does come down some. But you can see along and south of the river, we are talking about really solid rainfall amounts in our area. You know, again, this doesn't even hold a candle to what's occurring in Houston. That said, this is still a big rainfall. Our record for the date in Louisville is about 2.95 inches. So this would just crush the rainfall record for the date. And you can see Advanced Track shows 5 to 6 inches of rain in parts of our area. Let's look at the GFS computer model. What you're going to start to notice here is a very unified signal that shows along and south of the river, we get this heaviest axis of precipitation that then starts to die out as it moves towards the Ohio border. But this is a very consistent signal between the GFS and the NAM computer model. And I will say the GFS values are a little muted, but still tall, at nearly 4 inches for Louisville, 4.5 for E-Town, 4 for Campbellsville, and 3.6 in the Frankfort area. It shows our southern Indiana counties doing well near the river. It shows much thinner totals as you go towards Seymour, North Vernon, and Bedford. And we looked at the European computer model last night. Let's do the same exercise tonight. Again, a very unified signal of showing this heaviest axis starting near Hopkinsville, pivoting as it moves towards the E-Town area, and then dying as it moves towards the Ohio border. We see within the European computer model that it's showing around 3 inches of rain for Louisville. Seymour shows nearly 1 to 2. Good, solid, tall rainfall totals along in just one county north of the river, with our heaviest axis near the Western Kentucky Parkway towards the south and west. And so we see a rather consistent signal amongst the computer models. So let's go ahead now and look. First, we're going to look at what we refer to as the WPC. The WPC is the Weather Prediction Center, and in essence, what they are is they're the National Weather Service of rainfall. So that their job is to look at rainfall totals. So the first thing I'm going to do is look at the National Weather Service numbers, because I think it's just worth looking at and talking about. And you can see their numbers for southern Indiana, the numbers start to fall and curtail significantly. So those numbers as we get towards North Vernon, Seymour, Bedford drop off. Closer to the 1 to 2 inch total. And you can see the numbers as you get near the river ramp up quickly. The white is a transition from around 3 to 4 inches. So you can see that the National Weather Service in Louisville is forecasting 4.3 inches of rain for Louisville, 5.2 as you go towards the Brandenburg area, and they've got a 6+ axis of rain that extends from around Springfield through Bardstown, through just south of E-Town, including Munfordville, Litchfield, Caneyville, and then extending to around 6.5, their vision as you go towards the Hopkinsville area. And you can see that signal is very much resembled as you look at the WPC totals, who have 6 inches of rain from Litchfield, Munfordville through around Hopkinsville. They've got their 5-inch rainfall total going through around Shepherdsville, coming through Taylorsville, extending into Lawrenceburg. That includes areas like Springfield, Greensburg. That includes, let's say, Lebanon. The 5-inch rainfall total from the WPC includes Munfordville, and then their 6-inch total includes Caneyville, Litchfield, as mentioned, through around the land between the lakes as we go towards Hopkinsville. They show Louisville at 4 inches of rain. They show southern Indiana at 2 to 4, and they're showing 1 to 2 as you go generally north of the river, towards around Seymour and North Vernon. You know, the truth is, it's a lot of rain. You know, I think our capacity to digest anything over 2 inches is very difficult because it's coming down really hard. So, you know, if Louisville gets 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 inches, honestly, it just exacerbates the problems. But we're going to see our traditional flood spots in Louisville. I think everybody knows around U of L, we traditionally in Eastern get flood zones. We get flooding Breckenridge Lane as we get under the railroad overpasses, and those are going to be the first to go and have some flooding in them. We also see 65 downtown. We know that runoff can be high, causes flooding on 65 as you go towards Hospital Curve. And then outside of that, we are going to see some flooding. Here's the thing. If you look at your lawn, it's probably brown. So what that means is the ground can hold a lot of rain. Now you're probably thinking, Mark, you know, sometimes when we get 4 inches of rain, everything floods, right? But that normally happens when we have that in a cold season. Because here's the thing, the ground is warm, it's not super hard, and it will absorb the rainfall over an extended period of time well. That doesn't mean we're not going to see flooding, because we are. But remember, if the ground was like rock hard and solid and frozen like winter, this would be massive. Your ground is going to soak a lot of this. It's going to absorb. It doesn't mean we're not going to see flash flooding, because we absolutely will. I can guarantee it. But it means that that should mitigate the monstrous type of issues. This is not Houston. This is not what Salem saw earlier in the year where we had that catastrophic flooding. This is not that scenario. But this is solid rain. The deficit will end. You won't be likely watering your lawn again for the rest of the year. And that's the positive going forward. I want to remind you guys of something, and I need you guys to make sure you're listening to me right now, okay? You guys have plans for the holiday weekend? I do too. You know what I want to do? Is I want to actually spend some time with the people that I care about. I assume you do as well. Now, you drive into a flooded roadway tomorrow, you could end those plans, not just for the weekend, but for the rest of your life. Just remember, 15 minutes, it's not worth it. It's not worth trying to pass a flooded roadway. Do yourself, do your family, do your friends a favor, and let's make smart decisions. We do not drive into flooded roadways. We do not drive into roads that appear to be flooded. We make good, solid decisions. It's not worth the rest of your life. I just plead with you guys on this one because those are decisions we can avoid, we don't have to make, and they can be decisions that affect everything. You don't want to be that person driving home that drives into the water and thinks, you know what, this is only a foot deep, I can go right through it. And then all of a sudden you're seeing your life flash before your eyes as you fear. Let's not put ourselves in those kind of positions. Let's make good, solid decisions with potential flash flooding. That said, we've talked about the data. What I am going to do is hold my totals until WDRB News at 10, and reason is I want to make some tweaks as the new NAM computer model comes in here, but we're going to get big totals. I will answer questions if you have curiosity. Remember, new data rolls between 9:30 and 10, and I will be updating on WDRB News at 10. That said, I know there's a lot of questions here. I suspect we'll have 1 million, and I'm going to do my best to answer every one. I will also ask that you guys, please, if you enjoy my Facebook Live videos, me communicating in this mean with you, this mode of communication with you, please like, love, whichever is your favorite, and please share the video. Sharing the video, you help me do my job, which is to communicate to as many people as possible. I'd love to get over 1,000 shares for 103 nights in a row. Everybody share the video 3 times. After you do, comment down below so I can give you guys a shout out. And let's open it up to questions. When will the rain end? I think we'll keep rain into parts of Saturday. So Margaret's asking about Irma. So Irma, in case you don't know, is the hurricane behind the hurricane. Irma is a beast. It's out in the central Atlantic right now. Some of the computer models take this towards the United States. Some recurve it. Irma's a beast. Irma's a big-time hurricane, a big one. Irma needs to be watched. But that said, to say where Irma's going right now would be a very, very, very irresponsible thing to do. I know that everybody wants to know exactly where everything's going, but it's not worth scaring people when we don't know yet. There are 2 different scenarios that are developing within the computer models, one taking it towards generally South Florida, Central, North Florida, and then some of it totally recurves this thing. So what I would say is with Irma, let's watch it. It's not time to sound the alarm bells yet, but it is a strong enough hurricane and likely will become maybe even a Cat 4 is something we need to watch very closely. Tyan's saying, do I need rain boots? Yeah, you do, definitely. Shared 3 times from Kimberly. Thumbs up to you. Thank you. Remember, after you guys share it at least 3 times, let me know. I'll give you a thumbs up. Karen with 10 shares. Thank you. Miranda with 4 shares. Thank you, Miranda. Heather's asking, how will roads be during transportation? And this is a difficult one because what you're asking is somewhat difficult to exactly say. Do I think there's going to be road flooding? Absolutely. Where the heaviest band's set up. And I feel confident we're going to see flooding, especially near the Kentucky parkways. In Louisville, do I think there's going to be flooding? Yes, I do. The extent obviously is going to depend on how quickly that rain falls, but there's potential for issues. Kay asked, how do we know the amount of rain that's going to fall? It's a great question, and it is complicated. It is really complicated. So let me just use an example. Let's just say I'm saying that one part of our area would see 4 to 6 inches of rain. Just so we're on the same page, if that same liquid was to fall in a snow scenario, I would be talking about 40 to 60 inches. You're probably thinking that that would be an unbelievably difficult forecast, and that is true. And you start to understand that forecasting precipitation amounts is unbelievably high and complicated. It really is. We use computer models to help guide us. We look at scenarios in history on what has occurred with this kind of a storm, and we use that to try to piece together a forecast. It is not easy. Rainfall totals is probably one of the more difficult things that I do. It really is. Could there be wind damage? I think some small tree limbs, those kind of things. but I think the fact that it's going to be cool would mitigate any large scale on that one. Somebody's asking, will E-Town flood? You have to understand what you're asking. It is not possible to tell you an individual town is going to flood. It just isn't. Do I think E-Town has that potential? I really do, yes. A share from Lisa, thank you. Jeff's saying he's flying out of Standiford around 4 a.m. There's going to be rain picking up in that time frame. Somebody asking about JCPS. I have heard nothing about JCPS being closed, so, you know, and I have not talked to them on this particular situation, so if they call, I always advise, but I normally don't hear unless it's during snow. So that said, that's kind of what I do know at this point. Iris is asking, is the hurricane season going to be more active than normal? Absolutely, it really is. Owensboro, my thoughts, probably 2 to 4 inches. Somebody's asking about the weekend. I will go through my thoughts on WDRB News at 10 about the weekend. I don't want this to get off track. So what I would prefer to do is stay on rainfall totals for this storm system during this Facebook video, and I'll go through full impacts for the weekend on WDRB News at 10. For southeastern Kentucky, you would be less. The further southeast you go, the more it will tail off. Greta's saying, leaving Orange Beach, Alabama, 65, 10 a.m. tomorrow. Will you be traveling through the storm? You will. In Louisville, when you get here, it's still going to be raining, but I feel like the heaviest is going to occur between 5 a.m. and 10 p.m. tomorrow. Somebody's asking the chance of school closings. I hope that you guys totally understand that I'm a meteorologist, not a school castologist. I have no way to say or forecast whether schools are going to open and close. And honestly, that would be a real disrespectful thing to you and the public if I was trying to forecast it, because I have no expertise whatsoever, nor does any meteorologist in whether schools are going to stay open or not. Just know that. Please continue to share, guys. We're at 817. Want to get this up over 1,000. Everybody needs to share the video 3 times tonight. Remember, we're partners. The more you share, the more my video reaches people, and that's my job. If you can, like and love the video if you enjoy my Facebook Live videos. Headed south to Madisonville tomorrow. Should I avoid that area? I mean, you're going into the heaviest of the rain. So Anna's asking, what about Ike? Is this going to be like Ike? I want to show you guys the track that Hurricane Ike took. And I'm going to show you this because I think it's important for me to show you guys the track that Hurricane Ike took across the U.S. When you see this, I think you're going to understand the difference. So I'm going to go back to the Hurricane Ike track back in 2008. And what you're going to see is Ike moved through Indianapolis, okay? So Ike moves through Indianapolis. What we know about Harvey is going to move through south central Kentucky. So you're probably asking, Mark, why do I care? It's a good question. When you're on the southern side of the low, it's warmer. And warmth helps transport the winds down to the ground. If you recall, when Ike moved across the area, the sun broke out that afternoon. And once it did, the winds went nuts. So if you look a mile above the ground tomorrow, the winds are about 60 miles an hour to 65 miles an hour. Now, that said, we don't live a mile above the ground. We live at the surface. When the sun broke out during Ike, the 65 miles an hour wind that were a mile above the ground were given the green light to transport all the way down to the ground. In Harvey tomorrow, our temperatures are in the mid-60s, not 80. And so what that means is that 60 mile an hour wind, when it tries to come down to the ground, it hits a barrier because of the cold at the surface. And so that acts basically as a barrier and keeps the stronger winds above the ground. So that track for Ike allowed us to warm, which caused a cascade of events that allowed the strong winds from the ground to crash down to the surface. Harvey has a barrier of cold air at the ground that acts as a barrier, keeps those strong winds above the ground, and we don't see the winds like what we saw in Ike. So could that change where we got sun? It's not. We're on the northwest side of the low. It will be cloudy, it will be cold, and it will not be an Ike. So, thought that was an important one for you guys to know, because I know that gets talked about so frequently. If you guys are ever trying to assess yourself, is this going to be a bigger deal? Remember, if you're on the southern side of the low where the sun is, you will be able to transport more of that wind down to the ground. So the location we are on this low does not allow that to happen. It's a great question, by the way. What kind of winds in the Bardstown area? Probably 15 to 30, maybe a gust up to 40. Paul saying a first-time watcher, what about a Sharknado? I can't actually rule out an isolated tornado spin-up, and I would include areas like Munfordville, Greensburg, Campbellsville, and Columbia if that was to occur. Miranda's saying learn something new every day. And you know what? That's one of the things I think everybody knows. I have a teacher's mind. And you may not have known, but I was actually going to get my PhD in teach originally. So it shouldn't surprise you that my weather style is kind of a teaching style. But I'm glad that everybody learns a little when they watch my weather. That was the goal all along. Guys, we've got 3.5 minutes left. Please step on the gas on the shares. Let's pump up the shares tonight. This is a great topic a lot of people need to know about. If your friends might be interested, share. I request several shares from everybody in here. Let me, before we close this, we've got about 3.5 minutes left, so you guys need to share hard for the last 3 minutes. I want to tell you guys what I'm going to be discussing on WDRB News at 10. I like to tell you when and what, so you can tune in at the time, get your information. I know life's busy. That will allow you to go about your business if you got other things you need to do tonight. Bottom line is when the rain begins during the overnight hours. I think the heaviest starts tonight on WDRB News at 10 o'clock, top of the hour. When you should expect the heaviest to start in your area, what the drive to work looks like tomorrow, and the kids going to school. What should you expect? WDRB News at 10. 10:22. I'm going to go through rainfall totals. I have a 5 to 8 inch rainfall total for our area. Not really. So we're talking about a lot of rain potentially in parts of the area. Who should expect the heaviest? And I'm going to go through every town across our area, how much you should expect. I'm going to look at the new data that rolls in around 9:45-ish and give you an update on my thoughts on WDRB News at 10:22. And then WDRB News at 10:37. I know a lot of people are curious. How does this affect my holiday weekend? On WDRB News at 10:37, I'm going to go through the holiday weekend, when the rain from Harvey leaves, and when you get to enjoy upper 80s with sunshine for part of your holiday weekend. So when do you need to tune in? 10:22, 10:37 on WDRB News, and I'll give you that information. All right, we've got 2 minutes left, so if you guys have questions, let's continue to talk, and please continue to share so we can get our share up over our share goal, which we do is 103 nights in a row, which is crazy. Angie's saying she's going to be in bed by 10. Totally get it. I just want to give you guys the info, so if you're available. Madison, Indiana, my feeling is probably a 2 to 4. Michelle's joining from Springfield, Kentucky. I'm glad you're in here. Thanks for joining, Debbie. Somebody said forget the bread and milk. Michelle's saying hi. Hope you're having a good night, Michelle. Teresa's saying tomorrow's going to be one of those days where I don't want to fix my hair. It's going to be breezy, and it'll be breezy and it'll be cold, and it will be rainy, obviously. Jesse's asking, says he's going to U of L, parks at Papa John's. Yeah, you know then about Eastern. Eastern loves to flood on U of L campus, so we've got those areas that tend to flood the quickest. Everybody knows where they are. Fern Creek area, probably 4 to 6 inches when it's all said and done. Hodgenville, you're going to be on the edge of the higher total, so I think you're probably going to go above 5 inches, to be honest. Somebody's asking about Lexington, says she's a big fan. First off, I do appreciate that. For Lexington, my feeling's probably it's going to be 2 to 4. Somebody said it's a ball cap day. All right, guys, 20 seconds left on the video. What I'd like to do before we end is I'm going to give you guys an update on where we stand on our shares, tell you guys whether we made it over our share goal. Remember, our goal is to get up over 1,000 shares. If we make it above 1,000 tonight, it'll be the 103rd night in a row above 1,000 shares. I think we probably did it on this one. I haven't checked. Let me give you an update on that before we end the video. I'm going to rest my voice because, like everybody else in our area, the ragweed is wrecking me, and my voice is struggling. So we're at 1271. 103 nights in a row above 1,000 shares, guys. Give yourself some thumbs up and some loves. That is awesome. Up over 1,000 shares for the 103rd night in a row. That is seriously an impressive task. Every night you guys always show up in force, and I appreciate it. Remember, you can continue to like, love, even after the video comes to an end. I'm going to rest my voice for a bit. And I will see you guys on WDRB News at 10. Remember, 10, 10:22, 10:37. See you guys in an hour and a half.